Afternoon, guys. We will start with the broadcast section. That's got no embargo, followed by an embargoed section. No live tweeting during the broadcast section, please. And for those in the broadcast section, please use the microphone provided. Rob.
Ange, afternoon. It's been a tricky run in terms of the injuries that have piled up for your team, results-wise as well. Just wonder what you've learnt about the character and the mentality of your group over the last few weeks, and also maybe the ability too of guys like Giovani Lo Celso, who had been a periphery figure for quite a long time.
Yeah, look, it's fair to say, not by design, but you kind of test all these things through tough periods, and we've certainly been through one, and still in many respects going through it now. But yeah, I've been really pleased with the players' application, commitment to sort of what we're trying to do, and like I said, guys have got an opportunity to, which maybe they wouldn't have got otherwise, and performance level in the last 4 games has been pretty good. Probably Wolves aside in terms of the kind of football we want to play. Obviously the results haven't, so it's still an area we need to kind of improve. But like I said, with everything we've gone through, we've certainly, like you said, you discover things. And from my perspective, the main thing is that I've been pleased with, like I said, the application and the determination for the players to kind of keep going.
Christian Romero comes back tomorrow from suspension. How much do you feel you've missed him? And have you had to have a chat about just the need maybe to try and curb the odd rush of blood that he gets?
Firstly, yeah, great to have him back because, I mean, he's the only, bizarrely, he's the only recognised centre-back we have fit at the moment because obviously Mickey van der Veen and Eric Dyer and Ashley Phillips, all first team are all sort of out. So just to have him as a sort of recognised centre-back back in the team is good, but he's also a fantastic player. He's a leader in the group. Obviously, when we lost Matters and him after the Chelsea game, a lot of that sort of fell on Sonny's shoulders. So from a leadership perspective, good to get him back. And no, look, I haven't had to have a sort of a word to him about it. He's, it's part of who he is as a player. He brings a physicality to it. He knows when he oversteps the mark that we all, not apart from him, the whole group pays a price, and it's up to him to sort of maintain the discipline that I know he can show. But more importantly, like I said, he's such a really strong presence on the field and during the week. So really happy to have him back.
James Maddison was speaking in an interview that came out yesterday, and he described his injury as a slow burner. Is January, do you think, a realistic target still, or might it be longer?
Yeah, I'm not sure about James's medical qualifications and whether we should go with his diagnosis on these kind of things. So I'll leave it to the medical team. As far as I know, it's going along okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Becky.
Hi, Ange. You played West Ham in pre-season. I appreciate it was probably one of the first games that you were in charge of. Can you take anything from that game to prepare for this, or was it simply too long ago in a different space?
A lifetime ago, yeah. No, I don't think so. But obviously, we've been following him, and we scout him like every other team, and you kind of know particularly with David, he's been a presence in this Premier League for such a long time because he always presents teams that are very, very competitive. So you're going to have to be at your best if you want to get something out of a game against any of sort of David's teams, and. They got some real quality and threats in their side. It's a bit different from pre-season for us, and for them was a totally different sort of backdrop to what we were doing. So, like I said, we're going to have to play at our best levels tomorrow to get something out of the game, and that's a challenge for us, and we'll be ready for it.
And you said you've been pleased with the application of your players during this period of injury. After getting a draw against Man City, do you notice that there's an upturn in attitude in terms of just a spring in the step, or is it fairly consistent with the team, whether you're, with the results, whether they win or lose? No.
I mean, you look, they're human beings. They feel, we weren't happy with the 3 losses, and that it does affect players. Not, I guess, their confidence, but just their general demeanour, because with every loss you kind of get a little bit more sort of focused on the results. We're not overjoyed at getting a draw, so it's not about that. It's more about, I guess, the manner in which we went about it. That's given them a little bit, more belief in what we're trying to do. Because in the second half, I thought we showed some real resilience in terms of sticking to the kind of team we want to be to try and get something from a game. It's always going to be difficult anyway. So I think the sort of the upturn in any sort of feelings they have is coming more from that than the result. But we just try and stay consistent in our approach. That the end game for us is to play the game a certain way, and we've just got to keep focusing on hitting those levels.
Thanks, Ange.
Thank you.
If you could pass it down to Charlie.
Thank you.
here,
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You mentioned there about Dyer sort of being out. Could you just give a team news update? So
obviously Christian's available. Nothing from the other night in terms of anyone disrupting this preparation. And from the guys out, Pape's back training probably tomorrow, maybe a bit too soon for him, but Sunday I'm pretty sure he'll be available. Richie got 5 minutes the other day, and he's still fairly short in his physical, where he is physically, but in terms of the injury, he felt pretty good. So again, he's available. All the rest, don't expect to see back for a while, I'd say.
Including Eric, even.
At this stage, because he hasn't trained for over a week now, and they're sort of still working on the issue. So I assume, even when he does come back, he'll need a bit of time to get back up to speed.
What is his...
it's a groin issue.
It's a groin. And just wanted to ask you about the kind of fringe players, in inverted commas, who've come in and stepped up. How gratifying is to see that? Because often at Spurs the last few years, that hasn't quite happened.
Well, it's been important because, like I said, out of necessity, they've got an opportunity, and sometimes in that kind of scenario, you're very reliant on their ability to kind of come in and, not sort of disrupt the flow of what we're trying to do too much. But I was, as much as by necessity, I was always heartened by the fact that at training every day, guys like Gio and Brian Gill and even someone like Ben Davis, who hasn't had a lot of game time, they've been training well. Emerson has been training well. We're obviously asking them to do a little bit of a different role, which is another challenge. But again, I come back to their application, their determination to sort of just try and play our football has been a key to that. And as I keep saying, look, Wolves aside, I think our level of performance has been pretty good considering what we've had to go through so far.
To show as well how important it is to keep those people engaged, even if they're not getting the minutes they want. Yeah,
well, look, I've always been that way. If you come and watch our training session, there's no one who's standing on the sideline. Everyone is involved. We gear our training sessions around the numbers we have. We don't sort of focus on one group over another, and it's for that reason. I think it's important that whether you're a player or a staff member, you need to feel like you're valued, you're part of something, and sometimes the guys who aren't sort of playing or haven't had an opportunity to play, their only chance to show what they can do is the training. So we've got to give them that platform, and I think that's helped us through this period.
Ian.
Hi, Ange. Hope you're well.
Thanks,
Richarlison coming back 4 weeks ago, he had his surgery, and as you say, he got 5 minutes or so at Man City, available for West Ham. Does that show how determined he is, and how maybe he's got over his problems from earlier in the season, that he wants to be back playing in your team straight away?
Yeah, look, I think Richie, to be fair to him, he was struggling with it from the start of the season, but from our point of view and the medical team's point of view, it was one that we thought we could sort of persist with till we got a good chance to sort of get some work on it. But it kind of, by the end of it, he was really struggling even at training. So, even though it wasn't great timing for us, because it came at a time when we lost a lot of other players, we just felt, we needed to that he needed intervention from a medical perspective, and he's worked hard with the medical team, the sports science staff, to be available. And talking to him and watching him, he feels a lot better in terms of that aspect of it. But like I said, he's missed a fair bit of training in that 3-4 weeks, so we just got to do some work with him over the next couple of weeks to get him back up to speed, because again, we've got a fair few games, and we've been a little bit limited with how we can change things up during a game in the front third. So having him available, either to start or to come onto a game is going to be invaluable.
Won a lot of plaudits for the way you played at Manchester City on Sunday. West Ham are
after the game.
Yeah, after the game.
Yeah.
And before the game.
Yeah.
West Ham, very different animal to City. They're a team that decides to come onto them and hit them on the counter. Is that more dangerous in a way for your side and your philosophy?
No, I think it's equally. I mean, I just think with all these challenges, there's the biggest sort of obstacle is, you know, ourselves in terms of we need to hit certain levels, irrespective of what the opposition may bring to it, because the kind of game style we have, we're very reliant on how, you know, we roll out the kind of football we want to play, because it's not so much about, you know, stopping an opposition, it's whether we can impose ourselves on oppositions, and all of them have got threats, you know, both with and without the ball, that we've got to be wary of. So the challenge is the same. The challenge is about us, you know, making sure that we hit the levels we need to then be able to play the game we want to. So it's a Premier League. Every game, you know, you see it at the moment. There aren't many that, you know, are kind of easy games for any team. You know, home or away, they're all pretty tight, and I've got no doubt tomorrow night will be a real good challenge for us.
And you pretty much played, by the odd week or so, once a week. How are you looking forward to, how much do you enjoy the relentlessness of December, where there's, 10 games for you, and you're probably pretty much never going to see your family, and it's going to be all football?
I don't know about not seeing my family. I'm not sure what your family life's like, mate. I like seeing mine. Having said that, they're off to Australia for some warmer weather on the weekend. That aside, look, I think for us, you know, having the game a week, I know people have said is kind of, you know, in some ways been an advantage. I understand that, but I've also felt it's been a little bit of a disadvantage, because we've had a lot of players, particularly at the start of the year, who hadn't had a lot of football that we all of a sudden had to throw in, you know, whereas if we'd had midweek games, you know, even in Europe, you're forced to kind of give guys opportunities. So, you know, the flip side of that is we're still very thin on numbers. So, you know, the 3 games this week will test us. But, you know, like I said, getting Romero back, having Richie available, hopefully Pape Sarr on the weekend, that gives us some more numbers, and at least the guys who haven't had a lot of football recently, or at the beginning of the year, like Benny and Emerson and Gio and Brian Gill, are now up to speed. Even Brennan Johnson, you know, he's getting a clean run of games. So looking forward to it. I mean, it's 2 big games for us, particularly at home, and particularly after the results we've had recently, that we need to perform at a good level to get the results we need. Thanks, man.
Hi, Ange. Just want to ask you about Guillermo Vicario. Obviously getting a lot of praise for what he's doing with his hands, his saves, but with his feet, he seems to be getting better and better. How pleased are you with that, and how much work has someone like Rob Birch had to put into that, or was it something he always had?
I think a combination of all those things. I think what you look for, or I look for in a goalkeeper, is above anything else is temperament, because that's what you're going to need to play sort of the football we want. That you're not going to be sort of, you know, too on edge, as you know, with respect to game state or what's happening at that moment. You have to stay really clear-headed, and I saw that, you know, from the very first time we scouted him, just how sort of clear-headed he is as a personality. And you know, you saw it last week where, you know, we, especially in the first half, we gave the ball away a lot in that sort of back third, but, you know, he persisted, and to be honest, he was a big part of sort of why we got to grips with the second half, because, you know, he persisted and he made some really good decisions for us to play out. Rob's done a lot of work with him for sure, and that's helped him, but the bulk of it is down to him, you know, that he's got the temperament and, like I said, the willingness to play this way and sort of not shy away from it, just because, you know, at times it can be challenging, and, you know, he's a big part of sort of the way we set up, particularly, you know, with the ball.
And just going back to discipline briefly, Destiny Doggy, I think it's on 4 yellow cards now. Obviously, Christian, if he gets another straight red, it would be 4-match ban for him. You mentioned there about the effect that has on the group as well, more than the thing. Is that something that you have to police in that regard, make them aware of how it affects the rest of the group, or do the players kind of naturally do that?
It's a combination of both. I mean, look, it's, you know, some of it, you know, they're defenders, they're in that position, and sometimes, you know, I think Destiny's been unlucky a couple of times, but, you know, at the same time, you need that part of your game to be there as a defender, particularly in the Premier League. You know, you're facing some really, you know, some of the best strikers in the world and attacking players, and, you know, part of their, you know, what they bring to the game is the physicality. I mean, Destiny's, particularly for a fullback, he's so quick, but he's so powerful, and we don't want to take that away from him. but there is like I said, there is a broader consequence for those kind of things. And you know, when you talk about discipline, it's not just about not getting yellow or red cards. It's just discipline in approach in terms of, you know, the way we're playing, the way you kind of behave on a football field. All those kind of things make a difference. So, you know, again, it's not something, you know, I said a couple of weeks ago. I think it's been an area that we need to improve. But I'm not just talking about yellow and red cards. Discipline is also. There's been times this year, particularly in the last couple of home games, where we've started really well and we've lost our way because we've just got, you know, a little bit ahead of ourselves in not just, like I said, the yellow red cards, but even in terms of the way we're playing our football.
Last one from me. Just Ryan Sessegnon, the club put out a little kind of video today of some of his progress and work he's been doing. How's he doing, not only physically but mentally with this, because it's been a long recovery period for him? And also, how cautious do you have to be with him?
Yeah, all those things. I think, you know, it's the hardest thing for any footballer. You talk to any footballer and, you know, sometimes they feel when they're not playing or they're not getting selected is the worst time, or if they're having a bad trot in the team, you know, bad form, it's the worst time. But the worst time is when you can't do what you love and you can't, you know, be part of the group because, again, you know, if you talk to players who retire, the thing they miss the most is just that being in a dressing room as part of something. And when you're doing rehab, particularly like Sess has been doing, like I said, it's a bit like Rodrigo. It's a fairly lonely existence, and he's had to put in, you know, he's had some real bad luck. But he's still working away. You know, he's still, you know, positive in terms of his outlook, but we will have to be cautious with him. And I think the medical team, rightly so, because he's had kind of a number of setbacks, and you know, you want to give him every chance to sort of, when he does come back, to stay back. So. You know, he's one we're not putting any timelines on. We'll be guided by the medical team and by him, more importantly.
George, to finish this section, please.
Hi, Ange. Just with Romero, has he been this last month? Obviously not playing, but training. Has he been sort of person you want in training to prepare the team as best as possible?
Yeah, look, his training's been good. He's been frustrated because, you know, particularly, I guess, yeah, not just the fact that he's missed out, but he's understood the situation we've been in. You know, it's not like he was the only one missing. You know, all of a sudden, post the Chelsea game, there was, you know, we lost Mickey, we lost Destiny, we lost, you know, pretty much our whole back four, and then we lost Matters, and so he knows that, you know, how important he is. So I think he was frustrated. I mean, he had the international week, which is probably good for him because he got a couple of games in there and he got away from here. But he's been ready to go the last sort of week. He's trained really well, and I know he's happy, and I know the rest of the group's happy to have him back in.
And obviously you mentioned Eric being out for this week at least. You've obviously got Emerson as an option, Ben Davis, but also Alfie Dorrington. Are you sort of looking to him to kind of show you during the week that if someone's needed that he can come on?
Yeah, well, he's been in the squad the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. So yeah, Alfie and, you know, Jamie got on. You know, they're training with us now. They're part of the first team, so they have a chance every day to sort of, you know, show what they can do and be available. And as I said, at the moment we are really thin on defensive numbers, so you know, he may very well get an opportunity over the next couple of weeks.
And obviously a pleasing result at the weekend in terms of coming back, Man City, but still 4 without a win. You're a manager that's used to winning. How much is that sort of eating at you, or are you sort of battling that by thinking about the bigger picture?
No, look, you treat it the same way. It's like I say, I don't like losing. It doesn't sit well with me. I like winning. But, you know, for me, like I said, last week was not about just sort of getting a result there. It's the manner in which you do it, because just a result by any means, you know, I've been in that position before. It doesn't fulfil you any more than sort of, you know, losing a game of football. You know that it's not going to last. So for me, that's been more important. And whilst yes, it has been three losses and, you know, the draw last week, I still think our performances, as I keep saying, are the most important thing that kind of sustains you through that period where you're going, all right, not happy we're not winning, but at least I'm seeing the team sort of still performing and trying to play the football. And you've got to take it in context that, you know, like I said, we're going through a rough trot in terms of playing personnel.
Okay, we'll move on to the embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Matt?
When Ian asked a question and mentioned suggested before the game.
I was joking, mate.
You were just joking. I just wonder because there's a pattern of before some of these games, there's lots of discussions and debates.
That's great. That's brilliant, mate. That's all right. That's what we love about the game, mate. That's, you know, you want, you know, like, I love it when you see two blokes arguing about football. You think they're going to kill each other, and then you go the next day and they're sitting at the same table arguing again, you know. So that's what we love about the game. It's a difference of opinion. It's a difference. I love that part of it. Like I said, before the City game, it'd be pretty boring, and I wouldn't be anywhere near as interested if everyone was just had the same opinion about something. So, you know, from my perspective, it's the fact that football does sort of give so many voices the opportunity to have an opinion about it. Now, it doesn't mean I have to listen to all of it or I believe everything about it. It's not sort of what I tap into, but, you know, I love the fact that, you know, football does bring discussion and debate to the table. So I've got no issue with it. And, you know, and even I treat it in equal measure. Even the so-called plaudits after it doesn't really affect me, but I love the fact that some people get excited by it and others think, no, it's a load of crap.
And on opinions, the West Ham co-chair, Karen Brady, seems to have quite a high opinion of you. I don't know if you're aware, last season she wrote a column, I'm sure it's a column in the Sun newspaper, and it was like a love letter to you. it was just like, Ange's wonderful, it would be amazing if he ever comes to the Premier League. She listed all your achievements. Were you aware of that at the time? Did anyone make you aware of it?
No, but
do you know Karen?
no, I don't. I've never met Karen. I don't think I've ever come across her. But in many respects, wouldn't that make her fairly ahead of the game?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I reckon she's a pretty smart operator. But yeah, I'm not sure about the love letter stuff, mate. I mean, but no, look, I guess, you know, me kind of moving to Celtic kind of brought me closer to this part of the world. You know, I was aware that particularly, say, Celtic Rangers, everyone down here watches it, so it kind of gets into people's consciousness. But you know, I guess if Karen noticed, then like I said, all credit to her. No, I mean, I wasn't immersed in it, but it's just, I mean, even the questioning I was getting here, and it wasn't anything unusual to me. It's about, you know, will you change your approach, and will that approach work? And I think there was a valid sort of backdrop to that Tottenham have had a fair bit of success playing a totally different way against it, and I thought that was great, because that, as I said, those kind of things are the things that challenge my beliefs, because, you know, when you kind of say, well, no, I understand that works, but I want to do it this way, because ultimately, if I waver in that moment, then it makes me start thinking, okay, maybe I have to look at this a little bit differently. You know, going to Man City and trying to play like we want to play, maybe it's not a good idea, because this has worked in the past with Tottenham. So, and like I said, that's a valid discussion to have, you know, for many people. But I guess my point to that was, well, that's not me though, and that's why I'm sitting here, because, you know, the end game was never. Well, I don't think is about just beating Manchester City, because if that was the end game, then there wouldn't be the change that has happened here. No, it's not, because vindication would mean that I'm trying to prove something. I'm not. I'm trying to win. That's what I'm trying to do, you know. And I don't waver on that because I want to prove a point. I just think this is the way forward, because this is what has worked for me my whole career. So there's a methodology I have, a belief I have that's got me to where I am today, and I believe will get Tottenham to where it needs to be. So along the way, if things work, I don't see that as a vindication. That's just me keeping doing it. If it's not working, then I just need to keep doing it, not trying to prove people wrong, if you know what I mean.
Tom?
There's some stats out this morning that teams are scoring way more goals in the Premier League than they normally do. I think it's 3.16 per game, which is way up from what it was. Your team's been a big contributor to that. But why do you think that is? Why are teams scoring more goals than that?
there's about 20 minutes of extra game time every week in there. So, well, it's an interesting one. If we did a goals per minute, would that work out? There's a stats freak out there will bring it out for me. I don't know, but I do enjoy it. I've got to admit. I think we still are well short in that area. You know, it's still the area that I think we've got so much more upside in our front third to score more goals. You know, I really feel like, you know, apart from, like I said, there's some areas of we need to keep working on, but our front third stuff, I still think we've got so much more improvement to get to as a team. And we're seeing some of it at the moment. You know, I think, you know, Brennan and Decky, Kulusevski are starting to get a bit more familiar with their roles, and I think, you know, Gio getting a couple of goals from midfield. But I just think it's an area we can certainly improve. But I think it's great. I think, you know, ultimately it's, you know, what people love about our game, you know, that release of when a team scores and the more goals you have, I think that the more exciting games sort of get.
It was mentioned earlier that West Ham was your first game being a friendly, so it was like a lifetime ago. But Gio Lo Celso actually scored in that game. It felt like the first step in his reintegration. You know, you had a few players in the summer who their futures looked like they were over at Spurs, like Tom Mee and Wembley, who's obviously not out at the moment. But you kept hold of Gio, and now you're proving yourself to be quite a key player. If you cast your mind back to that summer, what did you say to him? Did you say, like, you know, the slate is wiped clean, and were you particularly impressed with how he did?
Yeah, look, I didn't have that specific sort of talk to him or anyone else. I think the players understand that. I mean, I think most players understand that. Some of it feel like, you know, what they've done in the past is enough to, which you know, that's fair enough as well. Or if they've come off a tough time, you know, they see it as an opportunity for some sort of redemption. But I think the only thing with Gio, I think, you know, I just wanted to make sure, not just him, but all those guys who, like I said, particularly maybe were on the periphery and uncertain about their future, was that I wasn't going to make any decision until they got a real good opportunity to show me what they could do and be part of it. And I sensed with him that that's all he wanted, you know, and he was prepared to sort of take whatever fallout there was from that, but he wanted a decent shot at it. And, you know, he was good through pre-season, and then obviously, I mean, I think the Fulham game was the second game of the year where he picked up the injury that set him back. But he's been good the last, not just the last two games, but the last sort of month for us in terms of training and what he's been delivering, and hopefully that gives him the confidence, because he's definitely, you know, he's definitely a talented player. You see how important he is to the Argentina national team.
Just as a quick follow-up, Romero, obviously fellow Argentinian, but since he's been given this vice captaincy leadership role, and there's quite a big Spanish contingent, or Spanish-speaking contingent, has he played a big role in Gio coming back into the fold?
I suspect so. I know they're very close, and like I said, I think our dressing room, you know, right now is a pretty sort of united, albeit eclectic one, where there are some, you know, some differences in culture and music choice and all these other things, but they're a pretty united group, and they kind of integrate to, you know, with one another really well. But there's no doubt, you know, Romero is a big influence over the, you know, some of the guys that sort of are closest to him, and Gio's certainly one of them. But Gio's his own man. He's, you know, he's an experienced player. He knows what he wants out of his career, and, you know, he senses there's an opportunity now for him here, and he wants to make the most of it. And I mean, that's great for us, because with, you know, with Matters out, you know, he was going to be difficult to replace in terms of, and I don't think, you know, Gio's like for like, but Matters was providing goals and assists, and you kind of go, well, we need that, whoever comes in, and the fact that he's scored a couple of goals and he's been involved in a couple of goals has been great for us.
Matt, and then John, please.
Does Kulusevski prefer playing in that central role?
I don't give them surveys, mate, and ask them. I think he has played there earlier in his career, but you know, I always think that if there is players who can sort of do that, it's great for them to just experience that for a little bit. It gives them a different perspective again, and then when they go back out wide, or I don't know if it's his preferred position, I'm not sure which his preferred position is, it kind of frees them up a little bit. They see the game a little bit differently. It's a bit like sort of Sonny going to the central role. If I put him back out at the left wing, you'd have a different, again, perspective. So I'm not really sure, you know.
Something about the real Decky, which
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I like him out wide. I think what he delivers out wide, and there's still areas we're really pushing him. I think he can be a much bigger goal threat and we're pushing him really hard in those areas. But just his general sort of energy and work rate and his ability to break lines with his running is probably, I think, more suited in my system to playing out wide. But watching him playing, centrally last couple of games, he's very, very effective in there and certainly an option for us.
John?
And you've just given a new contract for Fraser Forster. That's the top two keepers cemented for the long term. You've still got Hugo Lloris left over from a previous regime, it seems. What can you do with him? What does he want to do? What's going to happen?
Again, it's not something I kind of discuss with Hugo, but he's part of the first team. He's been here, he trains hard every day. He's a big, I think the goalkeeping sort of unit, fraternity, whatever you want to call them, it's really a good environment. And whilst Hugo obviously hasn't been playing, has been part of the first team, it hasn't sort of changed his demeanour or the way he comes in every day. He's very professional. It's great for the other keepers to sort of have him there as somebody with great experience. But it's no secret he's in the last year of his contract. Well, it's in the last 6 months now, and I'm sure he'll be thinking about his future and what he does sort of next step. But it's not something I'm sort of too focused on. I'm delighted we've signed Fraser on for another year. I think I've said numerous occasions in public that his training is just elite level, So, I still think he's a Premier League standard goalkeeper, absolutely. But as often in most cases, in squads, it's the guys who maybe aren't playing regularly that can sometimes, affect the mood of the whole group. And if you've got a guy like him who's not playing regularly, that's training the house down every day, it's a hell of an example to everyone else. And delighted to sort of have him on board for at least another year. Hopefully longer beyond that.
It's rare for a player to go first choice of legend to invisible man on match days. Would you let him go just like that if he wanted to go?
Well, it's not my decision. That's a decision for Hugo, the club. It's not. I don't have that power. I never want that power. My role is to, Hugo is a member of this squad, and how he trains every day is important to me. How he presents himself. Because if he wasn't, then I'd be dealing with it. But I haven't had to, because he's been absolutely first class in everything he's done. So, and again, as a manager, I don't take that for granted, because that could be a problem for me. Like most managers, it's the ones who aren't playing sometimes that give you the biggest headaches. And he hasn't given me any cause of concern with his approach, his application, or anything like that. But, it's his career. It's his sort of decision to make beyond that. It's not something that I would get involved with.
He must be that he has a chance of playing at least one game.
I don't know, mate. I've lost 5 defenders and I could lose 7 goalkeepers. I don't know, mate. It's why I do treat everyone the same, because you don't know. He's a member of this team. He's a member of the squad, and you don't know what's down around the corner, and it's the way you treat people when they're not involved that will come back to bite you if you need them one day.
Okay, last couple, Darren, and then finish with Dan, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've worked with some good ones, but look, irrespective of me, take me out of the equation. I think he's elite in every sort of aspect of it. Attacking players who've played in the Premier League. I'd be very surprised if by the time he's finished, which is well down the track, if he's not up there as one of the outstanding strikers. Because don't forget, a lot of his career's played out wide, but he's been a goal threat the whole time. Now I'm putting him inside, and he's got 9 goals already for the year. I think he's leading goal scorer for offside goals as well. So he's been outstanding, and I knew that before I got here. But just working with him every day, and the example he sets as a person as much as a footballer is just outstanding. And even it's inspiring for me. When you see a person who for all intents and purposes, has climbed the mountain many times in terms of his own football pedigree. That every day he loves what he does, and every day he feels it's a blessing, and every day that rubs off on other people, and then he plays the game like that. He runs around like he's a kid, literally, just chasing balls down, and like I said, to me, it still inspires me, and feel very grateful to be working with him. Yeah. That is the sort of definition of leadership is, what do you do when the chips are down, when things aren't going well, because everyone invariably looks there, they look at your leaders, what are your leaders doing? And, I think he just got this thing in his head that whatever they say about me, good, bad or otherwise, I'm not going to stop running through this period. And that has an effect on people. It does, because a lot of that running is without reward. He doesn't get a reward for just chasing the ball down. But if your leader, and your best player is doing that, then me as a teammate, well, I can't not do it. I just cannot. I have to follow that lead, And through this period, we've had to sort of dig deep, and we're still, like I said, we're still not out of it. We're still going through it. He's been a force in showing us the way forward. Yeah, he will be. He'll be a very important part of what we're building, and but that doesn't mean we wouldn't sign another striker, because I think even Sonny would demand it of me. If you're going to build a team that's going to win things, I've always found your best players want more good players in the building. They're not comfortable. They don't want to be comfortable. They don't want to just be sitting there saying, "Well, I'm the man." They want to know that they're going to be surrounded by other players who are just as motivated for success. So. But there's no doubt that Sonny will be a big part of that. Outstanding, yeah. Yeah, it is, and again, that's not the only way, the only road to success. I've seen other people who it's just about the winning, and you admire it so much, because I would find that so unrelenting, that pursuit of just the result, because a lot of times, particularly in football, the result is sometimes out of your hands. You could do everything right and still lose a game. And I would find that really hard to deal with, whereas my pursuit is about trying to play a certain way that will get us the result. And I find that, okay, if we played well and we haven't got the result, I get some sort of small comfort from that, So it's just a different approach, but it doesn't mean there's a right or wrong way. It's just, the road to success. But again, Yeah, to be honest, I thought the second goal was more because, part of what we want to do was press, the best footballing side in the world aggressively, and when Gio scored his second goal, we were on the halfway line pressing them, trying to win the ball. That meant, Ben's man-on-man with Haaland, and our fullbacks are man-on-man with their wingers, and that's part of it as well. It's not just what we do with the ball, it's what we do without the ball, taking that approach, and that, like I said, when you go into a game like that and that's your kind of what you want to do, if you come out of it, what you want is to give the players something, show them something to say, look, you did it. This is not just words, this is not just an idea, you did it. And it may have only been for small parts of the game, but if you can do it for small parts, our challenge is now, can we extend that to bigger areas? Whereas if you never even try it, you never know. You don't know if you can do it or not. So if we change my approach for the Man City game, that's where I would have lost. I wouldn't have got any opportunity to give that feedback to the players. So, from that perspective, we got a lot of good sort of information out of that game, good and bad, like areas where we really struggled, but some, you know, I explained it to the other coaches is, you know, like when you're paying for gold, there's a lot of dirt there, but you're just looking for that little speck. And we got quite a few specks of gold that I could show the players after the game and say, you know what, if we keep digging here, we'll get some nuggets eventually.
Okay. Dan, do you want to finish?
I can't believe I said that, sorry.
12 o'clock tomorrow.
Lost Declan Rice in the summer, kind of similar loss, I guess,
Yeah.
to Harry here,
Yeah.
who's the captain and talisman, but both clubs seem to be kind of enjoying a revival and perhaps more well-rounded than they were last season. Do you see any parallels in how the clubs have dealt with it, and is there maybe a lesson there that clubs shouldn't fear, kind of letting these players go?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but I'm sure if you ask David and definitely if you ask me, we'd both prefer that they were both here, you know. So, but it doesn't, like you said, it also offers you an opportunity, I guess, an opportunity to say, well, okay, we're losing a great player. You know, how do we now use that opportunity to try and make us a better side? And that's the way you have to look at it. And I think you're right with West Ham. You know, they've certainly brought in some quality because Declan was an amazing player for them and an influence for them. There are opportunities there, but you have to take that opportunity. You know, it's not as easy as just saying, well, just let your best player walk out the door and everything will be great. No, let your best player go out the door. You better be sure that you've got a plan. And you know, fair to say that, you know, we're not there yet, but you know, we're kind of hoping that over time we'll have the opportunity of losing, you know, such a great player. We'll use it in the right way to make us a better team, and I'm sure, you know, David's trying to do the same with West Ham.
David's spoken this week about Souček having a freer role because last year he had to push Rice on, and kind of said that's helped him score more. And I know you're not going to say that you're better without Harry and whatnot, but is there a sense that he was so important that he kind of straight-jacketed Spurs into a certain style last season, maybe? Has it freed you up to implement your principles a bit more?
No, I don't think so, because you know, you were at the Shakhtar game, you know. He did all right. Yeah, so I don't think our style of football would have been hampered by having Harry there, you know. And I think that's selling Harry short a little bit as well, you know, that he's, you know, somehow the team has to play to him, you know. I think his game's evolved over time where he could play a lot of different ways and different systems, you know, but that sort of final third stuff has always been there, the quality. So, no, I don't see it that way. I think if Harry stayed, you know, I don't think it would have changed my approach or how we set up the team. And you know, I think from my perspective, it would have been great if we kept him, but I kind of knew from day one that he wasn't going to be here. So we started building other things into it. But, yeah, no, I really, you know, I think the way we play just requires footballers who, you know, have a willingness to sort of buy into a real team ethos in the way you play your football, and I think Harry has that.
And can I just ask a final one, going back to Sonny? Against City, I thought some of his build-up play, the way he kind of switched the ball at times, was almost a bit Harry-esque. Obviously, his goal scoring has been great, but do you think he's still got room to grow into that centre-forward role and perhaps do the other sides of the game even better?
Yeah, I think he has it in him anyway. I mean, I watch him again. You know, obviously I've watched him a lot for Korea, and he tends to play a little bit more South Korea in a central role for them. And I think he has that technical ability, but it's different in the Premier League. And I think with every game, I think he's getting a better and better understanding of how he can be involved in the link-up play, not just sort of the final third stuff. And you're right. I think it helped us last week, especially. You know, some of his link-up play, the ability for us to sort of get out of pressure, having him drop deep, receive it and turn is very helpful, and just adds another sort of bow to what we're doing. But you know, all the players I think are in that phase of just every game, hopefully understanding a little bit more about what they can do and bring a little bit more of themselves, because you know, a lot of the stuff we do at the beginning is very prescriptive, and the players want to sort of follow direction and that can sometimes be stifling, but you have to go through that process to then be able to free them up. And like I said, that front third is still the area where, you know, I still think we're just really at the infancy of, you know, I just see so much more growth for us in that area.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks.